No, actually, he hasn't. You look at his numbers, Skip, in 3 years as a starter, he's won the Super Bowl. He's been Super Bowl MVP. He's been to 3 AFC Championship games, 2 Super Bowls, 3 Pro Bowls, all before he turned 26. And so for me, Skip, he had a bad game. He picked the wrong time to have his worst game of his professional career because that is the most watched game of the year. It's the most chronicled game of the year. There have only been 55 of those games. They played, in 3 weeks, they played 55 football games, Skip. And so and it looks bad. He didn't play well. His team didn't play well. And normally when the quarterback doesn't play well, it's hard for him to overcome, even if the team is playing well. If your quarterback is playing bad, it's hard to overcome that, Skip. Since he became a starter, he's first in passing yards, first in touchdowns, first in QBR, first in wins, and sixth in percent of throws that are intercepted. So he's still very safe with the ball, even though he's putting up these astronomical numbers. Skip, I don't think he's overhyped. He had a bad game. His resume is impeccable thus far. To say, you know what, I lost a Super Bowl and I lost to Tom Brady, and I lost to a team that played maybe one of the 3 or 4 best defensive games that we've seen in a Super Bowl out of the 55 that's been played, there's no shame in that. Patrick Mahomes is not overhyped.
And I'm here to tell you he has been overhyped so far because he has not been able to back up his regular season greatness in his 2 Super Bowl games so far. It's a small body of work. But there are times I actually feel a little sorry for him because the world has wanted him to be something that he can't quite live up to on the biggest stages. And I do believe this has a lot to do with Tom Brady because there are so many Brady haters. There are so many millions of people in this country, this world, sick and tired of seeing Tom Brady on the biggest stage in the sport, that Patrick Mahomes has been the ultimate breath of fresh air. And yet, what makes him must-see TV, what makes him so spectacular, also has made him vulnerable on the biggest stages because he will try just about anything at any moment. Greenest light I've ever seen a quarterback have. And yet, he's up against the ultimate brilliant textbook quarterback in Tom Brady, who is the master of precision execution, and Mahomes is the complete, utter flip side. Throw the textbook out the window and let it fly quarterback. And because he is so supremely gifted with his arm talent and his just overall athletic ability, that he can often get away with that and live up to being spectacular. But it reminds me a little bit of the Michael Vick experience in Atlanta when, as Michael will tell you when we have him on the show, it became harder and harder for him to live up to the expectations because the expectations don't always win football games at the highest level. The breakaway runs, the open field make you miss from Michael Vick. It was the greatest show on earth. It just was. I miss those days. Those were, you don't talk about must-see for me. And yet he was doing it a little more with his legs than his arm. He had a huge cannon of an arm. Not always deadly accurate, but still just spectacular to watch him air it out 80 yards in the air. And this kid has all that, and underrated as a scrambler. By the game, he gets better and better to me because he's hard to get on the ground.
Skip, I would agree with you. Had he had his starting lineup intact, the offensive line is intact, not down without 3 starters, and he played like he played, I said, okay, Skip, maybe you're right. But I still don't think, even though he would have just had a worse game, in this situation, he had a bad game. It would have been exacerbated had he had his 3 starting offensive linemen, and they make him look like this. Skip, but his body of work, who can say they had a body of work like this at the age of 26?
Okay. Brady can if you just do the Super Bowls because he had won 2 out of 3 in his first 3 years starting, right? The first year and the third year. And he was the MVP of both games. One was won with a late drive where his numbers were low.
No, the second Super Bowl, what you call him, Deion Branch was the MVP.
No, I got it. But he should, this is just me, because he won a shootout with Jake Delhomme. If you look at the numbers, they're big Mahomes-like numbers for the Carolina game. And it was 32-29. Okay. So all I know is small body of work. I've watched Patrick Mahomes play what I believe by his standards are subpar Super Bowls twice. Because if you look at his QBR a year ago, before his first Super Bowl, his QBR during the year was 78. Sensational. Second in the league. He had a 64 QBR in the Super Bowl game. And remember, I keep harping on this. Nobody wants to hear it, but they're down 20-10 late third quarter. And if we quickly remind everybody of how it looked, he threw this interception down 20-10 late in the third quarter. This is against San Francisco a year ago. And that's no good. Okay? So it looks like you're going to be in big trouble because we're almost to the fourth quarter. And he doesn't see Fred Warner. Okay, then we go the next possession early in the fourth quarter, and he does it again, and they're still down 20-10, and he throws this pick. It's a little high and outside to Tyreek behind him. You think he was trying to protect Tyreek from getting his block knocked off. Yeah. And yet it's high and outside, tipped up into a second interception. They're still down 20-10. And we go all the way to mid-fourth quarter, and they're still down 20-10. But why are they able to stay upright? Because Jimmy G is the rival quarterback, and he's having a terrible fourth quarter. He's going 3 of 11 for a grand total of 36 yards with an interception. So you're not playing Tom Brady in the fourth quarter.
If you don't mind me asking, Skip, why is it that he threw interception and was behind going into the fourth quarter? He comes behind and wins, and he played bad. Tom Brady did the exact same thing against the Legion of Boom. They won. He did the same thing against Atlanta, was down. They won. Okay. But he played great. Why is it that Tom played great even though he was down and threw interception? One was a pick six. But Mahomes, he just played bad the whole game.
Did Russell Wilson just come apart in the fourth quarter? No, he played great in the fourth quarter, and Tom Brady played great.
Matt Ryan came apart.
Okay, Matt Ryan came apart. I'll give you that. But Tom Brady was throwing for 246 yards just in the fourth quarter and overtime. That's like a good game for a Super Bowl in the last quarter in the overtime.
But Skip, you said, well, he won a shootout with Jake Delhomme. You make it seem like Jake Delhomme is going to the Hall of Fame.
I didn't say that. But is Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Hall of Fame?
No, but Jimmy Garoppolo went to the Pro Bowl that year.
Okay, and yet remember, it gets to 3rd and 15 at the 35, and this is for the game. This is like sink or swim at this point because you're still down 20-10.
Right.
And he's got a rusher right in his face, and to me, he gets away with one here. This is fortunate where he just wings it into the left flat, and Tyreek had to stop and come back and wave for a fair catch.
He called a play, Skip. Okay. He went to the sideline. NFL fans had white up and said, do we have time for Wasp?
But this is one where, with the ball hanging like that, one of the safeties can come over and pick that off. And he was lucky they didn't react quickly enough to a ball that hung up for grabs. Okay? But he got away with it. And they got away with it, and they won. It looked like going away until Jimmy G missed Emmanuel Sanders with a throw. If he makes one throw in the fourth quarter, we're having a whole different conversation because they're going to lose.
Well, Skip,
he's open. He's open. If you just hit him, he missed him by 5 yards.
Skip, we could say that about Matt Ryan. I mean, if he makes one throw, if Russell makes one throw, a lot of times these games come down to making one throw. Okay. And one guy makes it and the other guy doesn't.
Okay. So this year, during the regular season, he even improved, Patrick Mahomes did, his QBR all the way up to 83, which again was second because Aaron Rodgers was just off the charts great this year and obviously was the runaway MVP. In the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was lucky to have a 50 QBR because he rallied in the fourth quarter and threw for 156 yards in the fourth quarter alone and scored 0. The math doesn't compute for me. How do you throw for 156 and you don't get it in the end zone? Obviously, they're just going for broke. Well, so they're not going to take a field goal. They're just going to throw for it.
The thing was, Skip, is what the problem that I said they needed to do. Once they got into the red zone, they needed to score touchdowns. And what Tampa was conceding, like, okay, we're going to give you yards, but we're going to close the door in your face once you get close to the end zone. That's what they did for the entirety of the ball game. But, Skip, if you look at, like I said, we've seen guys, and I don't want to diminish the Super Bowl MVP, but we've seen guys that had less than outstanding careers become Super Bowl MVP. Patrick Mahomes was a regular season MVP, which means you need to play great, not for one game, Skip, not for 4 quarters, but for 16 games over the totality of a season. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 in just your first year starting. We've seen guys throw for Tom Brady did it in year 8. Peyton Manning did it in year 13, year 14. Patrick Mahomes did it in year 2.
No, I give you regular season. There's no doubt about that.
So Skip, you can't say, well, because he lost his Super Bowl, now he's overrated. You look at the guys going to 2 Super Bowls by the time he's 25. He's won 1. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's been an All-Pro. He won the division every year he's there. He's had 3 straight AFC Championship games at home. Skip, that has to mean something. And even as bad as he's played, he still only has 4 interceptions in his playoff career with 17 total touchdowns.
Here, I'm going to go to your favorite website, Pro Football Focus. Again, grades in the regular season for this kid are off they're out of this universe,
Right.
is what they are. So in 2018 regular season, they give him a 93 grade for the year. That's sensational. In that AFC Championship game that he lost barely to Brady in overtime, he was a 72 grade. Okay, the next year in the Super Bowl year, he's 84 in the regular season, 64 grade in the Super Bowl. This year, 91 grade in the regular season, 66 in the Super Bowl. So you can see he hasn't lived up. Again, small body of work, but he's not playing regular season great on his big stage game.
If you look at him in the AFC Championship game in his first year that he lost in overtime, if however they graded him and gave him a 60 or a 70, I don't know how.
Well, remember, he had a bad first half, and then he caught fire.
And then he scored
half.
24 points in the fourth quarter.
He did.
And 3 touchdowns. So, Skip, like I said, look, there have been plenty of quarterbacks that have had more humiliating losses than this. Skip, you remember my quarterback, Elway. Mm-hmm. He didn't even come close. 55-10, 42-10, 35-10. I mean, he wasn't even close to winning.
And what saved him, what fell out of heaven, also via the 6th round into his lap.
You had
Terrell Davis, okay? And all of a sudden, he didn't just have a run game, he had the run game.
We had an elite run game. But, Skip, I talked about this earlier this year. I said, Skip, the thing that concerns me about Kansas City is what? I said, their running game, Skip. I said, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's too small to be an every down back. Yep. And what couldn't they do? Short yardage. That's why they signed Le'Veon. That's, once the guy that ran for, I forget his name last year, he opted out, Skip, to take care of his mother.
Damian Williams.
Skip, they can't run the football.
Darrell Williams ran pretty well this year.
Okay, but Skip, the mere fact that you had your quarterback running an option, lets you know that
they ran it again in the Super Bowl.
Exactly, but you see how quickly he pitched it. He didn't take no chance of threatening the edge. Did he? Like, I'll let you go to take this out, get this out of here. But look,
okay, what did Patrick say yesterday? We need to figure out a way to be more efficient. Bingo. Because ultimately, what wins at the highest level is some form of efficiency. You can't make a spectacular play every play and win the Super Bowl.
Well, Skip, you can't throw it all those times. Because if you look, that's basically what he said. We're gonna have to, we got to run the football. Andy, I fought Andy also, Skip. They're getting immense pressure with 4 guys, and you're still running scat protection. You don't think about maybe, hey, somebody gonna have to stay in and to give Patrick Mahomes some extra time. But you just keep running scat. That's fine, Skip. Scat protection is fine if your offensive line can hold up.
And that was a problem. That was a problem. But by the second half, I believe, because this is the first time he'd been under this kind of fire, maybe since high school, he said, that he began to duck out too quickly. He began to feel a ghost. And, as you say, just jump out the window too quickly. Because he's more comfortable when he's sort of running for his life and looking downfield to try to just create the spectacle.
The thing was, Skip, is they did a great job. If you watch him, what they're doing to him, they're flattening him out. So they're racing him to the point where they think he's going to be. So he has to retreat even further to try to get an angle.
Well, what happened early in the game, twice he jumped out the window and got free. And made 2 big games.
And Todd Bowles said, look here, we can't let him out.
Nope. And in fact, one time they blocked it up where Kelsey actually came back and blocked JPP so he could get free. Because he can run.
Yeah, he can. And a lot of times, Skip, he started bouncing to the outside, but he was afraid because they were getting so much push on the interior. He probably should have stepped through the window in the front as opposed to getting to the side. But give Tampa credit. They did a great job on him. He'll be back.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.